I promised I'd do a second video on two call closes, so here we are. All right, so this is what your two call close should look like. It's very straightforward, it's very simple. Most complicated parts between the first and second call. After that, dead simple, dead straightforward. Let's get in there. So first call, so you've had a discovery part, you understand a little bit more about their business, you've had access to their books, whatever it is. Then you want to stay in touch. So that would look like connecting on LinkedIn. Maybe if you see an article they like, or maybe you can search for an article that of a topic you talked about that you can send over to them. Essentially just stay in touch between the first and second call. For example, sending value, it could say, hey, I saw this article on XYZ we talked about, and I thought you might find it interesting. Something along those lines. Or maybe you have an extra question like, oh, I saw this, and that. Is that right? Got a little bit of a weird transaction here. Is that right, or is that from something else? Just staying in touch. That's literally it. Just staying in touch, right? And then you want to send a recap of what you talked about, plus a roadmap of what working with you would look like. So it's dead clear, because remember, no one that's confused buys. That's called gambling, right? So everyone wants dead clarity on what they're actually buying so that they understand what they're getting into, and it feels less and less like a risk and more like an investment, because confused buying is just gambling. So start of call two, simple stuff, small report. Again, remember, it's like the last video I talked about. You don't want to say, hey, how are you doing? You want to say stuff like, tell me about your day, what have you been up to? You want to say a little bit about what you've done, and then ask them what they've done. Just opens up the conversation a little bit. Then you want to set the agenda, right? You want to say, okay, on this call, what we're going to do is, and let me touch upon that. So here we go. So the idea of this call is to recap what we talked about on the last call, answer further questions, and walk you through your personalized proposal. From there, we'll lay out the next steps, and if it makes sense, we can still get started today. Sound good? Again, sound good? Sound fair? In that tone? Sound good? Sound fair? That's what you want to go for, okay? And then you want to go into recap and question answering. So recap their pain. So you go based on what we talked about last time. You told me that you're waiting days for responses, you're unsure what tax you owe, your bookkeeping is falling behind, you don't have up-to-date numbers, and your books are just a right mess. Have I got that right? Yes. Great. Have any questions come up since then, or is there anything else you'd like to add before we continue the discussion? Yes, no, add it, like decrease it, whatever it is. Just find out a little bit more. Next, you want to walk them through their tailored strategy. So here you want to say, okay, so based on what you told me last time, here's what I think is going to be most effective. And then you start walking them through solving the problems of giving them the solutions of the problems that they gave to you last time. You can say, so you mentioned you had messed up books, so the first thing we're going to do is fix those. Then after that, we're going to do this. Then after that, we're going to do this. And by this point, we should have achieved this outcome. And after we've achieved this outcome, we're going to get onto this to make sure that we don't face this problem anymore. That way, they're going to feel like they've got an exact roadmap plan to the problems they're having and a perfect solution. The clearer you are, the better. Trust me, if you get this right, you are going to outsell so many other accountants. These guys cannot sell for the life of them. So if you can get this right, you will crush and you will get so many clients. It's insane because no one will be as clear as you are. And then next thing you've got to do is dig up the final obstacles. What that means is, again, walk them through their tailored strategy, explain away their concerns and objection handling. Before pitching the price, ensure they are confident in you and your service. So you want to ask this. It's called the unicorn close. Amazing, works so well. It's gotten me probably like 4 or 5 closes in the last couple of weeks. It's actually insane. So you want to say something like, okay, from what I've said, on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you we'd be able to solve these issues? Okay, they should say something like 6, 7, or 8. Okay, if they say 8, they're pretty much closed. If they say 6, there's a few things you've got to dig up. Same with 7. If they say 5 or lower, you've got a bit of problem. So this is how you dig out. Let's say they say 5. You say, okay, if it was free, would you do it? If they say no, you're like, okay, right, let's take a step back because we are nowhere near the solution, right? If it's free and they wouldn't do it, something's gone completely wrong, okay? So you want to find that out. Okay, you want to say something along the lines of, oh, okay, let's take a step back. Does my breath stink? Right? Just make a joke or something along those lines. So it just alleviates the pressure because there will be a high pressure call. And then after that, you want to just ask like, what's going on, right? If it's free and you wouldn't do it, that usually means you don't trust me or you think the solution is way off from what you're looking for. Which one is it? And then you want to, if they don't trust you, you want to understand why and show them that you are a trustworthy person. And if they don't trust the solution or they think this is not the right solution, then ask them what is the right solution. But anyway, let's say they say, yes, I will do it if it was free. Great. You say, why isn't it a 1? How come it's a 7 and not a 1? And here they're going to start selling themselves on your solution. Oh, well, it's got this and that, and I think this is going to be really good for me, and I think just having this thing that you're doing is going to be really beneficial. Awesome, and what would make it a 10, right? You want to have that curious tone in it, like what's it called? It's like a curious child tone. It's like, oh, well, then, what would make it a 10, right? Not what would make it a 10. Awful. What would make it a 10, right? You're curious, like, oh, okay, like, what would make it a 10, right? And then usually people don't know, right? It means there's an emotional stop and there's something stopping them that's got nothing to do with your service, or they don't trust you potentially. And if they do know what would make it a 10, just add those to your services or say, we have a partner that can do that for you. If we could get that as well, would that make this a 10? Okay. So if you, and by the way, very common, people will say something like, oh, it doesn't include XYZ in your services. And it's something that you've already mentioned that you do. They just need a reminder that you do that thing. Okay. And then after you do that, so after you say, okay, they're like, oh, XYZ would make it a little bit better. All right, okay, awesome. So if we added XYZ, let's say they said 6, are we feeling more 7 or 8-ish? They're like, yeah, okay, so how do we push it up a 10? And 9 times out of 10, people hit you with, just got to try it. Right? And that's a good thing. Like, yeah, absolutely, you got to try to know, right? And if you can have a guarantee in place, which is a no sweat, if you work with us for 20 days or 30 days or 15 days or whatever it is, and you don't like what you see, you don't like our processes, you can just leave. We'll give you a refund, no strings attached. Okay, it just makes the decision feel like less of a commitment, and it'll get people easier through the door. Now you might be thinking, is it bad that it's less of a commitment? Much not. It'll make the decision feel like less of a huge decision and more of something that's risk-free and easier to close. It would just make it feel like less of a huge decision if they have some sort of guarantee in place. And again, if you're thinking like, how do I even guarantee my bookkeeping services? You can guarantee an outcome, or same with like if you have an advisory offer, or again, you can just guarantee them not having to stay with you. You can say, if you work with us with a month, you don't like what you see, you don't like the progress we're making, we no sweat guarantee, we'll refund you. And if you're scared that you're going to be refunding a bunch of people, trust me, if you're good at what you do, you won't be refunding pretty much anyone. Next, you want to pitch them, walk them through the proposal, right? So based on what you've brought up to me, we recommend the XYZ package to solve the solutions that you've mentioned. And that's going to be at, $800 a month. And we'd be able to fix everything we talked about. And note, the more specific you are, the better, right? The things they actually mentioned, you put it in the offer. You say, right, we recommend the XYZ package at this much a month, and we'd be able to fix the bookkeeping issue you're having and fix the tax planning that you're looking for, whatever it is, right? And after you pitch the price, don't say anything. Don't start explaining your price. Don't say like, oh, the reason it costs this much is because you'll lose all credibility. Just zip it, shut up, wait for their response. Now, you want them to say either, yes, let's get started, 2, give you a question, or 3, give you an objection. Anything that's not one of these 3, stay silent. Get comfortable with silence, because a lot of the time, people will stay silent. Maybe they'll be writing on a notepad thinking like, okay. They'll be thinking like, okay, like, does this work with my financials? They just got to do some quick math. Stay silent, don't say anything. Next, you want to obviously objection handle if they've got a few more objections. By now, this should have done 80% of the heavy lifting, the what would make it 10, why isn't it a 1, etc. That should have done 80 to 90% of the heavy lifting. You should have some very minor objections. Now, it shouldn't be very hard. Or you might get hit by, my partner, I need to ask my partner, something like that. You just need to learn to handle those objections. But most of the heavy lifting should be done. And it should be fairly easy to close now. And finally, you want to close. So how do you close, right? In descending order of best to worst, you want to get payment on call. You want to sign a letter of engagement again on call, get some sort of down payment if they can't make a decision today for whatever reason, right? And the way you ask that, it depends what kind of person you are. But the way I like to ask it is, would you punch me in the face if I ask for a down payment just to get a form of commitment from you? And most people are fine with it. They don't mind. If they say no, they're never going to close anyway. But you want to get some form of commitment. So even if they decide to not move forward, they have to give you a reason which you can take into account and use that as feedback to improve your own services and improve your own sales calls. And the last thing you want to do is book a meeting from a meeting. So BAMFAM, this really shouldn't be happening on the second call. On the first one, definitely. On the second one, probably not. If it does happen, again, you do at least want to get a letter of engagement signed or a down payment. And once they're ready to get started, just say a closing line, something along the lines of, great, shall we start saving some taxes? It's light-hearted and easy to say. Or, I've just sent you the Stripe link, has it come through? So this is when you actually send the payment. You say, I've just sent you the Stripe / payment link on Google, on Zoom, on WhatsApp, has it come through? They'll say yes. If they don't click it right away, or if you're not sure if they clicked it, just say, does the link work? And then they'll click it and tell you, awesome. And then just say, awesome, I'll let you get going doing that. I'll just quickly grab a glass of water, just, give them some time to do it themselves, and keep the conversation light from here, until the payment goes through. If you're just sat there in silence waiting for the payment, they're going to get nervous and they might start second guessing themselves. But if you keep the conversation light, it's like, oh, okay, like, how's your life going to be easier right after this? Like, start talking about the outcomes. Like, what are you going to do with all the spare time you have now the bookkeeping is completely sorted for you? And this is where they'll start telling you things like, oh, I might go on holiday. I'm thinking of doing this. I'm thinking of doing that. Keep it light. Don't let the pressure build up as they're paying, because you will lose a lot of calls like that. I'm giving you the source here so that you don't have to make these mistakes that I made, and you can skip them and just get straight to closing. Hope that helped. Any questions, pop them in the comments. If you need help with sales, or if you need help with getting more appointments, book a call from the link. I'll put it in the description. Stay awesome, stay fantastic. Have a good day.